Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed?
There is a moment that has quietly resurfaced in Montreal hockey circles, and once you hear it, you will understand exactly why people are bringing it up again right now. Cole Caufield, one of the most electric scorers in the NHL, stood in front of the media and said something that had nothing to do with goals, power plays, or playoff positioning. He addressed something far more personal, something that, frankly, most players in his position would have either ignored or deflected entirely. He looked the situation in the eye, chose his words carefully, and delivered a message that landed with the kind of quiet authority you do not often see from someone his age. He asked Montreal Canadiens fans to stop booing the American national anthem. That is it. That was the moment. Simple on the surface, but when you start pulling at the threads of what that actually meant and why it is being talked about all over again in the wake of the Brady Tkachuk trade, you start to realize this story goes a lot deeper than a few seconds of arena noise. Let us take a step back and set the scene properly, because context matters here. The booing of the American anthem at NHL games in Canada became a recurring flashpoint during the World Cup era and carried over into regular season hockey. For some fans, it was a form of expression rooted in a complicated cross-border relationship. For others, it was simply something that happened in the heat of the moment, crowd energy feeding on itself the way it always does inside a loud arena. Whatever the reason, it was happening, and it was creating an uncomfortable atmosphere for American players suiting up night after night in Canadian markets. Cole Caufield is American. He is from Stevens Point, Wisconsin. He bleeds patriotism the same way he bleeds hockey, and hearing the national anthem of his country met with jeers from the same fan base he was playing his heart out for every single night was something that genuinely bothered him. He did not storm out of a press conference. He did not post something inflammatory. He chose the most difficult path available to him, which was to be direct, respectful, and honest all at the same time. He said, and these are his words, that he found it pretty disrespectful. He said it respectfully. He acknowledged the fans while also making it crystal clear where he stood. And here is the part that tells you everything you need to know about the relationship Caufield has built with the city of Montreal. The fans listened. That does not happen by accident. That does not happen unless a player has already done the work to earn that kind of trust from a fan base. Montreal Canadiens fans are among the most passionate, knowledgeable, and emotionally invested supporters in all of professional sports. They do not just respond to points on the scoreboard. They respond to heart. They respond to authenticity. And they responded to Cole Caufield because they knew, even in that moment, that he was being real with them. Marco D'Amico, who has covered this team closely and understands the inner dynamics of the locker room better than most, revisited that episode recently. His take was clear. The booing had not sat well with Caufield at all. And when the fans dialed it back after he spoke up, Caufield was genuinely appreciative. That meant something to him. You could feel it. Now, fast forward to this week, and the reason the story is circulating again becomes obvious almost immediately. The Brady Tkachuk trade has sent shockwaves through the NHL. Another high-profile American player departing a Canadian market. Another situation where people are asking uncomfortable questions about whether American players truly want to be in Canada long-term, or whether there is an undercurrent pulling them toward American cities. It is a conversation that has been percolating for years in various forms, and the Tkachuk move has brought it back to the surface with full force. And so, naturally, people's minds went to Caufield. Here is a young American star. Here is a guy who already had a notable moment tied directly to the cultural tension between American players and Canadian fan bases. Here is someone who, by every objective measure, has become one of the most important players on this franchise. Is he next? Is he looking at what happened in Ottawa and starting to reconsider his own future in Montreal? The short answer is no. The longer answer requires you to actually look at who Cole Caufield is as a person and as a player, and what his relationship with the city genuinely looks like. Caufield did not just ask fans to stop booing and then disappear into the background. He has been front and center for everything this team is building. He is not here collecting paychecks and counting down the days until he can sign somewhere with warmer weather and lower taxes. He has bought into the Montreal project in a way that goes beyond hockey. He engages with the fan base. He understands what wearing the CH means. He handles pressure, scrutiny, and the weight of expectation with a composure that frankly makes him look older than his years. The anthem moment proved that. You do not speak up the way he did in that city with that fan base about that subject unless you genuinely care about the relationship. You do not try to find a thoughtful, respectful middle ground unless you actually want to protect something worth protecting. A player who is mentally halfway out the door does not do that. A player who is counting down the months until free agency does not do that. You only do that if you are in it. And the reaction from the fans reinforced exactly that. They heard him. They adjusted. Because somewhere in that exchange, both sides acknowledged something important. This relationship is worth the effort. Now could things change down the road? In professional hockey, nothing is ever truly guaranteed. Rosters move. Contracts expire. The business of the sport is relentless and unsentimental. No one is pretending otherwise. But right now, today, the idea that Cole Caufield is sitting in Montreal watching the Tkachuk news and quietly planning his exit does not hold up under scrutiny. It does not match the evidence. It does not match the person. What the anthem story actually tells you, when you look at it through the lens of everything happening in the league right now, is that Caufield is someone who handles difficult situations with uncommon grace. He did not weaponize that moment. He did not make it about himself. He addressed it, resolved it, and moved forward. That is leadership. That is exactly the kind of person you want anchoring a franchise that is in the middle of one of the most exciting rebuilds in the entire NHL. The Brady Tkachuk situation is its own story with its own set of circumstances. Every player's situation is unique, and you cannot paint every American playing in Canada with the same brush simply because one major trade happened. That would be lazy analysis, and it would be unfair to players like Caufield who have done nothing to deserve that kind of suspicion. The fans of Montreal cheered loud enough to rattle the rafters when he asked them to change something. That is not the sound of a broken relationship. That is the sound of one that has been tested and held. Cole Caufield is not going anywhere, and everything he has shown us, on and off the ice, backs that up completely.